Hello, everyone. It's a sad day.
Indeed.
We've been sent a cease and desist letter from F1. The tired F1 pod is dead.
If
It's been a good run, Ammar, but see you later, everyone.
Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of the Tire GP. We're back, we're better than ever, and guess what? We have a bright, shiny, spanking new name, Shez. What's going on?
Yeah, that's right. If you're a fan of the tired F1 pod, you're gonna love this because
Yes,
it's the same.
we come on, man, a little bit more than that. Yeah, well, we're back. We're now the Tire GP moving forward. So Formula One, you can take that and shove it up where the sun don't shine, okay? Because we're back and we're doing our thing. We don't care about whatever the hell you're saying, because we're out here to do our thing, Shez.
That's right. We're still gonna talk about your silly sport because that's all we can talk about.
Yes, we're going to talk about EFF1, okay? All right, that's what we're going to do. So go ahead and sue us all you want. Well, I mean, we're back. I think that we couldn't have picked a better day to come up with a new name. And
You couldn't have picked a better
well,
day.
I did pick
Look at
it.
you.
I did
It's
pick
it's like
it.
it's literally like a Ferrari vomited all over you.
Yes, yes. This is glory, man, glory. I mean, we could listen, man. I've been predicting this for a while now, so at some point, I was going to get this right. But what a day, man! What a day! What a weekend! What a glorious day to be alive,
Mate,
man.
I'm not gonna lie. I'm with you. I think I had tears in my eyes when Charles Leclerc crossed the finish line. But listen, I'm wearing black. You are wearing red.
Yes,
Ammar, Ammar, bask in the glory.
man.
Tell us what
I
happened
I
at the
sent
Italian Grand Prix.
I sent two words to many of my Leclerc hater friends, and with all due respect to those of you in the content creation community, I sent two words to you, all of y'all, and that is eat it all over and over again. I mean, I am done with all kinds of silly, dumbass comparisons about Charles Leclerc and John Alesi and everything that's said in not a positive way, right? I'm done, and you know what? He couldn't have picked a better way to shove it up everyone's. Really, really. I mean, this has to be a masterpiece, right? And I'm not just saying this as a Ferrari fan, but I mean, look, George Russell pulled out something similar in Belgium, but this was something, man. This was something, and you knew that. Oh man, I can't speak, man. It's just overcome with emotion. And look, say what you want about, there are many great races on the calendar. Silverstone obviously is right up there, but Ferrari winning in Monza is just something that you can't put words to it, man. You can't. And I really wanted to be an Italian yesterday. I almost looked up like how do I become an Italian citizen right now? Like I was ready to do that because
How did
good
that go?
God, that not too well. But like, I mean, I've
Oh,
been learning the Italian national anthem so much now. Like at some point, I'll get it all right. Like, but come on, man, have you ever heard a
man.
national anthem be sung with such vigor, such amazing positivity? Like they're jumping and dancing and like, what is this? Is it a party or what? Like, why can't we do that stuff? Like I was like, oh,
Mate, I think we all became Italian
glorious.
for an afternoon. But Amar Delalio more than anybody else.
Yes, that's right.
Okay,
You're right.
listen, I'm gonna try and
You bring me back
channel
to
your
earth now.
no, not at all. I'm gonna channel your joy and we'll have a little chat about how the race played out. So how did Charles win this race, man? How did he end
Well,
up on
pure
top?
genius for once. A little bit of luck, right? And we're gonna get into it. But I think Ferrari are there, right? They're there, and I think we kind of forget in all of the drama and all the madness that is pouring on McLaren. And we'll talk about that. But Leclerc was just about a tenth off of the pole lap. Like it wasn't like he was 5 tenths, 6 tenths, even 3 tenths off, right? So you could have seen it coming, right? And in some ways, this was going to be a place where Ferrari would have been strong. They brought a brand new wing, right? Just specifically for Monza, something that I don't think anyone else did, at least that I can recall. And with all
Yeah,
the
Monster
upgrades,
special.
Monza special. So I don't think, look, could they have won if things went slightly differently with McLaren? Probably not, but they would have been right there. And Charles in particular, I mean, he drove a fantastic race. And shout out to Alex Brundle, who gave this fantastic breakdown on F1 TV on how Charles was managing, along with his engineers, all the graining. And subtle movements of the steering wheel and things I couldn't even comprehend, right? It was just amazing. It was just amazing.
Yeah, look, yeah, I agree. I think Charles, man, that was an exquisite performance. And what I loved about it the most was that it highlighted all the brilliant stuff that Charles Leclerc does and actually has been doing all season, but also showed that all of the stuff that people say that he cannot do, he did, like
Yeah.
all of it.
Yeah.
It was just a complete performance. And I talked about drivers and their flaws before the summer break, and I still think that every driver has a flaw. No driver is
Sure.
perfect. But Charles has been working on this little
Yeah.
bit of work for months and months and months and months. And Monza was where it all paid off for him. And I want to talk about the bits and pieces that he did. So first of all, qualifying, what did he do? He was what, just over a tenth away
Just
from
over a
pole?
tenth. Yeah. It was not that far. Yeah.
Yeah, Carlos wasn't miles behind him, but I
Either.
think
Yeah. They were close.
both of them got the most that they were going to get out of that car.
Yeah.
And this is a car that now again, Charles is doing the thing that we told Charles that he needed to do, which was stamp his authority on Ferrari. Tell them what you want from the car. Get them to develop in your direction. Make sure that you are the team's focus when it comes to updates and development direction. That's what has happened. The update was there to fix a particular issue, bouncing. The floor was there to do that. In Monza, I don't think we were going to get a proper read on that, but the direction that the car is taking seems to be favouring what Charles wants because he's asked for that to happen, and here he is reaping the rewards and absolutely maximising the car in a way that only Charles Leclerc can do. So that was qualifying. Go on.
I was just going to say all of this speaks to the fact that when you as a driver know that the car is moving in the direction that you want it to, and not just that, it is working in the direction of where the competition is headed, right? A la when he was struggling, the car was bouncing. It was just completely, it's not like the car was faster and he was not able to get more out of it. When you can see the effect of that, right? You can see it in the body language as well, right?
Yeah,
Because
I
you
agree.
just have to listen to the post-race radio to kind of know exactly how he felt about that. But I'll let you continue. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree because there's no point having like performing next to miracles in a car that isn't going to get you a win. The skill, the magic is in pushing your team to develop a car that works for you, but also is competitive. And that I think is what Charles Leclerc has done alongside the technical team. So that was qualifying. And then in the race, there were a couple of things that I really like. The first is how good he was on his tires. This isn't the first time he's done this. In Japan, he was exactly the same. In Japan, he called it. Here, actually, he didn't call it. In fact, he made a very, very Lewis Hamilton style announcement over the radio. Why did we allow ourselves to be undercut and then come in the next lap? Well, Charles, this is why. And he was told what he needed to do. You listen to what Alex Brundle had to say. It was every lap the
Yeah.
engineers were talking to him, saying, okay, this is where you need to save a bit of time. This is where you need to square off the corner. This is where you need to save your tires. This is where you can then head into the distance. He bought into that and he did the job he needed to do exquisitely well. Exquisitely well. You know,
Yeah.
he was able to understand that there was going to be some tire graining. His team reassured him, "Don't worry, you can get past that." Right, and he was able to push through the graining. It didn't go away completely. He just altered his driving style to allow himself to still get pace out of a dead set of tires. Unbelievable. This is what we'd say that he couldn't do. That that aggressive balls out, you know,
Just run it out.
flying
Yeah.
by the seat of his pants, Charles Leclerc. That wasn't. This is him showing that he can do something else. And when I say that he is the second coming of Gilles Villeneuve, this is why I say it. Because Gilles Villeneuve was
It's
accused
better.
of the same thing, that all he could do was sit there and just be the wild man. That completely disregards what he was doing at places like Yarima, where he had a car that was essentially a truck, and he was able to keep the entire field behind him to win the race. That's what Charles Leclerc is now doing. He's able to even when the car doesn't have the strengths it needs to have, he's able to he's able to show a different side of his game now. And that's it's just beautiful to watch it. I love it.
Yeah, I think 100%. And I think what's amazing also is we got to pay some compliments to Ferrari, right? I've come on here time
Yes.
and time again
Yes.
and bash them for everything from their development program all the way up to their strategy. And there's some merit to the fact that Ferrari have now given up on being the fastest car on Saturdays and then focusing more towards Sundays, or at least, but at the same time not completely giving up on Saturdays. And you can kind of see that. I mean, this has kind of been building. I mean, even you go back to Belgium, and Charles did a very good job of putting it on pole, right? Albeit, of course, Max was going to have the 10th place there, but also good tire management back there too. They pull off a really good one in Hungary as well. And then you can kind of see that they have made some changes in all three areas, right? It's your famous three areas, right? It's the organization, it's the strategy, and the mechanical, right? And you can kind of see that they've done that. And I think you got to give some compliments there. I mean, and what you can see, the example of that also is with what Carlos was able to do. Yes, he wasn't going to be as quick as Charles on this occasion, but that was a brilliant race by him too. And his defense on Oscar, it did add a couple of seconds there in the end, which did turn out to be a little bit handy. So there's something to be said about that as well. So
So this is another thing that I picked up on and I really enjoyed seeing, right? That for the longest time, people say, oh, Charles Leclerc is is not smart enough. Like he can't read the race well enough, and he makes silly strategic decisions. My argument to that has always been that it's not the driver's job to do that, right? The fact that Carlos Sainz does it, he's an outlier and he's developed that through a lot of practice, right? It's not a coincidence that his idol, Fernando Alonso, is really good at doing that. Carlos Sainz has tried to emulate that, but I guarantee that Carlos would trade his his nous in a race for the speed that Charles Leclerc has because you can't learn that. Charles is the kind of driver that the way he drives means that he needs to concentrate a little bit more on the driving. Okay, if you're 20 seconds out the front, it's much easier to concentrate on to focus on that stuff, and the driving is just a second nature. But when you're having to work for it, you really have to concentrate. Um, and and that means that you need to have a pit wall that understand what's going on in the race. That's what Max has. That's what Lewis has. It's what Michael Schumacher had. Michael in his pomp at Ferrari wasn't making up the strategy. It was literally he was the vessel through which Ross Brawn worked. Ross Brawn had a strategy in his head. He just knew that Schumacher could do it. Schumacher wasn't making the strategy up as he went along. And that's what Charles is trying to emulate here. It's what he and Monza was the best example of that, of pit wall strategy, operations, and driver in sync, making that result happen. It was everything together,
yeah.
right? So I don't need to see Charles calling the strategy from the car. That's not how he's going to win multiple races and championships in the future. He's going to win it because all of them are in sync. And that's what we saw in Monza this
Yeah.
weekend.
And my final thing on this really is that a drive like this is what we all remember, right? You need, when you think of champions, right?
Yeah.
You can pull up these examples and say, yes. And so for me, I've always thought that Charles is in the same category as Lewis and Max, just without the titles, just without the team. And I think it's only a matter of when, not if. And assuming now that Ferrari can carry this on. I mean, I know what happened after Monaco, so I have to kind
Well,
of temper my
if as
expectations, but
the great Murray Walker would say, is F1 spelt backwards.
yes, yeah, it's
So
exactly that.
anything can
Anything can
happen.
happen. But I mean, look, they should walk away feeling really satisfied. Like this is one of those satisfying wins at Monza. It could have
Oh,
been a satisfying win anywhere, to be honest, the way they did it. But just to have it at Monza with the added pressure and the excitement of it, it's just beautiful. It's beautiful.
It was so satisfying. If like I have to say I didn't quite feel the emotion in Monaco. That was much more of a personal one for Charles. This was something else though.
Yeah,
This is like you could hear the emotion pouring out of Charles
yeah,
at the end, and how happy was he when he was up on the on the
On the
podium.
podium. Yep.
Sure, you had to contrast it with the other two that
Yeah,
were
we
on
have to
the
transition
podium
to
with
that
him.
too now, but yeah.
But man, and listen, after Lewis's Silverstone podium, this was
Yeah.
there for me. It's never going to
It's,
be the
it's
same. It's
been
never for me. It's never going to be the same. But I bought into that this weekend, and it was just I was so happy for him.
this has been I don't think we're gonna need Drive to Survive for this season kind of thing, right? Because it has given us so many stories like throughout. I mean, we're not even done, right? We got what's 8 races to go, right? So it but you already have that Lewis winning in Silverstone. You have Charles winning in Monaco and then Monza, and then we still have quite a few exciting races to come. And all of them are going to be exciting some way or another,
Well,
particularly
we've got
Brazil, and who knows what Abu Dhabi looks like when you get there. I mean,
yeah,
if it's going
indeed.
to be anything there. So that's
Well, we've got Baku and Singapore coming up, so
it's interesting.
Charles,
I can be,
Ferrari,
I can dream again,
watch
huh? I can dream.
watch this space. Watch this space. All
Wha-
right, Ammar, we're gonna have to transition from the
Ah,
sublime
yes.
to the nutty.
That was an amazing podium and post-race press conference, man. I ate all of it for two reasons. Like there couldn't be a more contrasting image right there. Like if you had said what does glory and agony look like, it was right there. It was surrounding Charles. Like Charles had the halo on him, but everything else around him wasn't plundered, man. I
Just
don't know how you
fire,
took all of
just
that.
on fire. Yeah, it was brilliant. Okay, we should probably just talk about
Yeah, yeah.
what happened very, very quickly. If you
Yes,
if
let's do
you
that.
weren't watching the race, where the hell were
Why are
you?
you
Probably go and watch it. But
here?
just as a very quick summary, Lando started on the front row with on pole with Oscar right behind him, and for once he managed to get off the line, made it through the first corner, made it through the second corner, got all the way to the Della Roger chicane, and Oscar saw a gap, went round the outside. Lando had a little bit of a Seb style wobble on the exit, and that allowed
Pardon me. Yeah.
Charles Leclerc through into second. And from there, Lando just didn't have the pace, kept making mistakes. Oscar flew off into the distance, but took up too much of his tyres. Lando did the same. McLaren asked their boys if they could do a one stop. Neither of them said that they could. In fact, they both said we have to come in again. They did. And while Charles Leclerc was putting on a tyre masterclass, these two ended up second and third, with Oscar probably being the quicker of the two and heading that, and Lando coming in third, both angry, perhaps for different reasons. And I guess the first question we need to ask is Lando is now 62 points behind Max Verstappen in the Drivers' Championship with a car that has been capable of winning since Miami, pretty much like every single race. Um, Oscar is about 40 points further back. What was it the right decision? Was it right even that Oscar was able to have a punt at Lando? And if you think that that is okay, was it right that when the win wasn't on for Oscar towards the end, that they didn't then invert the two of them so that Lando maximizes the number of points that he could have got come Abu Dhabi?
Because there's so much to break down in this, right? Because we could do a whole nother episode on McLaren itself. I just want to take a moment and defend Lando for a second because I have seen a lot of hate in the spaces that I occupy, particularly social media and all that. I just don't understand why we are pouring it on Lando. Like just because he said simply lovely hot the last time around, like I don't understand. I don't even understand the correlation between that and this because I went back and looked at the onboards and then we looked at the F1 put out a side by side of the two. Honestly don't think Lando did anything wrong there. Like, I mean, and you could argue that maybe their strategy at the beginning might have been, or before the race started, I should say, might have been to try to take care of their tires. And I kind of thought Lando was doing that, right? I mean, you start the race, heavy fuel, tires are probably not up to temperature. Other things are not in sync yet. It probably takes a lap or two to settle down. And Oscar just jumped him because that's the best way to put it. Now, I'm not blaming Oscar for it, but he did really kind of jump him, right? I mean, and it's a brilliant move, by the way. I loved it. As a Ferrari fan,
Man, it's a
as a
great
non-McLaren fan,
move.
it's a great, amazing. I think it's got to be the move of the season. I mean, And there's probably better moves out there too, but at the moment, that's what comes to mind, right? But
I mean,
I just,
it was just this.
what was Lando
I just
supposed to do? I mean, and he could have arguably been quicker had he got a chance to set sail as well. And for me, this is not on the drivers, really. It really isn't. And you could tell that, look, we can come and we've done this on Lando before, where we've sort of criticized his ability to cope with situations, and but you could tell he was driving angry and upset, and that that was evident that right after that too. It was just amazing. My best, if there was nothing else you could take between the two, right, that it was just that the two of them sitting in the press conference waiting for Charles. Like, that was amazing. That tells you the whole story. Lando was not expecting Oscar to do that, at least not at that stage.
but Oscar was also sitting there going, I have no stake in your championship.
Yeah.
That's not my job here. Unless somebody tells me that that is my job, like that's not my job.
Is
There's
it though?
you know.
Yeah. I
So
mean, this.
okay. So that's the question that I need to that I guess we need to ask ourselves, right? Is it now McLaren's job to say, Oscar, sorry, mate, uh, you're 40 points behind your teammate who
So
could potentially win a world championship because we've got a fast car. You're just going to need to have to get in line. What do you think?
so two things come to mind in this, right? One, it's interesting, and this is a question really that I have. The word from McLaren, Zach Brown, Andrea Stella, their team, whatever they put out, is they keep reiterating the fact that there's no number one driver.
Oh, papaya
There's
rules.
right, and they're smart, sensible people. They can do the math. They see everything on there. They have more access to information and data. And the one thing that this race proved is that Red Bull is genuinely in trouble. And this is not just the race results. You listen to Max, he's going to tell you the same thing. So to me, they went out on the summer break, and it looks like they've made this commitment to not having a number one driver, right? And we can debate whether that's the right thing or not. I certainly don't think that's the right thing. But they have made that commitment. And the only reason I can think they've done that is there's something in Oscar's contract that says to the effect of, I'm not going to play second fiddle unless I'm mathematically out of the equation, which I think at this point he's not out of it. But I also think that this is going to hurt Lando. And I think that's what you're kind of seeing set between the lines too, right? Because there is no good reason for them to not go after the two championships. And I think the second point to this is they, in this race, completely underestimated what Ferrari could do. And probably Mercedes could do, but Mercedes just didn't have the pace, right? But they underestimated what that Ferrari could do in Charles's hand. And that's not something they should have done, because they would have known all well that Ferrari was going to put their best foot forward in this race, if not in any
Yeah,
other race. I mean,
they
they brought a
absolutely
rare wing just for
underestimated
that,
Charles
right?
Leclerc.
So
Yeah.
they just absolutely, and so they should have for this race gone and said, look, be sensible. We've got to manage the tires. You knew coming into the race that those track temperature was high and that tire deg would be an issue, but they just completely underestimated. And good God, we're going to be sitting here talking about Lando winning the championship or not. McLaren are not guaranteed to win the constructors either. Like, and if they keep going this way, it's only going to get worse. And we've seen incidences like this get ratcheted up, right? So I
Mm.
really just think this is more of a team thing, in my opinion.
Yeah, look, I mean, I like begrudgingly, I think, yeah, there's no one in their right mind that logically can't agree that um McLaren need to impose some team orders, right? Because if they don't, this is going to keep happening, and
But
Lando's
they
going
don't
to
even need
keep
to do that,
bleeding.
Shez. They didn't even need to do that. They could have just said, "Hey, no racing in the first
Yeah, that's
phase
a
of it."
team. That's
But
a
I
team
mean,
order, man.
okay, all
That
right,
is a
fair
team
enough.
order, right? So telling Oscar don't race, that for me is a team order. Um, and yeah, I think logically, I guess yeah, they're gonna have to do that. But I feel like Lando of all the drivers that I've seen up for a world championship in the last 20 years, right? He's he's the one that's really needed someone he's in a position now where he needs to have that because of stuff that he has done and bad luck that has happened to his teammate that's put him in a position where he's one got the points ahead of his teammate and two still that's not enough for him to have won enough races that he's thrown away so many partly through McLaren bad strategy but also quite a bit through his own driving,
Yeah,
right?
but I mean,
So
look, I mean, this goes
yes, on the
to
one hand, yes, on the one hand, I agree, that that's what they should do. But I say begrudgingly because I feel like he's needing that to happen now. Like he's not going to win this if he doesn't have a bit of help from his teammate,
Absolutely, absolutely. Even Max needed help from
right?
Checo, right? These are not. I
But
mean, this
but
is not
Max
trivial,
Max
right?
had put himself in a position in
Yeah, but
2021 where he was undisputedly the main man at Red Bull. And Lando has repeatedly failed to do that, to assert his
what does
authority
that look
over
like,
Oscar.
Shez? Does that look like not giving the position back in Hungary?
What?
Is that what that
Yeah,
looks like? Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
I
Well,
think that's fair.
not losing it in the first place in the first corner.
Yeah, but I mean, come on. Like, I mean, but look, he was quicker that day, even after having lost that place, right? I mean,
Yeah, but then
so
don't mess it up on the first corner. And then Belgium as well, right? Oscar finished ahead of him in Belgium because he absolutely dunced the start. He let
yeah.
Max get ahead of him. That was a
I
terrible
mean,
start.
I
And
do agree with you,
the
but
problem is in a championship battle, these are the things that are going to bite you. One or two of these things are going to bite you. Fernando Alonso had two DNFs, only one of which was his fault in 2012, and he lost the championship. How many mistakes has Lando, and by association, his team alongside him made that have cost him victories? How
yeah,
many? Like,
I think that this is again, this is as much about the team as it is about the driver, to your point. Like, I mean, again, we underestimate the psychology of what the team tells you behind closed doors that we don't get to hear. Like, much like I've made this case with Charles, right? This is all about what kind of mindset you put your driver in. And I think McLaren are repeatedly saying this out loud that there's no number one driver, there's no number one driver. And I think it plays to it. Now we can hold that as a floor or a flaw, right? For Orlando, like that's fair, but that's who he is. Right? You are who you are at the end of the day, right? And it doesn't it felt from his words that the team left him on an island. And I think that Hungary thing will keep ringing back in his head, where we heard the words right from his engineer to say, "Hey, give this position back. You're going to need Oscar at some point." And I genuinely don't think he expected Oscar to jump him there. I just don't think he expected that. Now, it would be one thing if they were both, off in the distance and it looked like Oscar was clearly the quicker car and there was undercutting, pit stops and all of that. Like that would have been a different thing. But the fact that he got jumped, I think it got him pretty good. And then
yeah,
he lost the place to Leclerc too. So
I would accept that if he then, fair enough, he was in
he
dirty
owned
air
it too,
afterwards,
though.
right?
Yeah, he owned it. He
He,
never said
he
anything bad about the team. And he
no,
said,
no, I agree.
I suck. I
Because
should have done better. Like he took it all on the chin, and you got to give him props for that. Like, I mean, he may not have felt
and
that
you know
way,
what?
but
I agree, right? It takes guts to say that. Every time he says it, I agree with him, right? I agree that he is doing the right thing by airing it, by owning it, by then coming back stronger, but he doesn't come back stronger. That's my problem with this. There's just too many of these where he just,
I
he
think
just gets pushed out the side. And I go back to what others have said. I'm going to put a quote up here, right? Because I tweeted this the other day. Andrea Stella, after the race, said that. So remember that Andrea Stella was Michael Schumacher's race engineer. He was then Fernando Alonso's race engineer. Two of the most forthright teammate stamping drivers of all time. He said even with Ferrari, when there was a successful driver, the successful driver was successful because he gained the success on track. Can you tell me, hand on heart, that Lando has done that?
yeah, no, that has not happened. I think that's a very fair criticism of Lando, and I think, and this is again a little bit speculatory, but if that's a word, but I think that they place a lot
Speculative, I
of
think, is the word.
speculative right out here. Come on, man, it was nice for you. I was hoping for people to correct me in the chat. Let's see if they're listening this far. Uh,
I
Yeah,
hope so.
I think that they're placing all their eggs in the Oscar basket. I think that they have more insight than we do on this one. And then I just think that they're contractually bound from doing that. I really do. I mean, what they're hiding behind all these words and saying, yes, look, man, those were different times when Andrea Stella was with Schumacher. That was a different time, a different age. This is a different time. Like I get that there's certain things happen a certain way. And I heard Zach Brown say the same thing. Like McLaren's always had this way of being there. Okay, but yes, you don't just keep doing things a certain way.
Amar,
This is a very one-off
he's
situation. But
yeah,
this is a very
sure. but Lando has never, with any of his teammates,
But
been that guy. He's never been Michael or Fernando.
fair enough.
He's never made the case that I am your guy, and that's
And
allowed this to happen. Even in 2021, when Daniel Ricciardo won in Monza, what happened? Lando wanted to be allowed past, and they said don't race.
I
They told
agree.
him don't race,
I
and
agree,
he'd
but
been
that's a
pooping all over
mistake.
Daniel all
Yeah,
season that
but
season.
not but okay, but
But
I mean,
yeah,
but that's
okay, it might be a mistake on McLaren's part, but there's something to be said for the fact that McLaren feel that they can say that to Lando because they know that he'll just sit there and take it, and that's the problem. And it's something that
yeah.
the great
I
ones
mean,
wouldn't have done.
I agree with you. I mean, on the great ones part, Chess, but here's the conundrum if you're McLaren, right? Yes, Lando may not be Michael Schumacher. He may not be Lewis Hamilton. He may not be the second coming of Max. He doesn't have to be that, right? It's their job to support the driver that can win a championship to support him. Like that's what they have to do. Whether he's aggressive or not, they don't need his impetus to, they don't need him to come knocking down their doors and saying, duh, I'm
Sure.
62 points away and now there's 8 races left. Like I could mathematically make this happen. And oh, by the way, all of the sets, they came out of this race weekend making a little bit of a gain. Yes, tiny gain, but Lando needs 7.8 points more than Max the rest of the way to win. They got 8 points. So I mean, it is still not too late for McLaren. There's some sprint races,
Which yes,
so they
which is
have to
fine, which
make
is
that
why
decision.
which is why I think logically yes. Yes, of course. They need to prioritize Lando and get Oscar
I guess,
to back out. My contention here is, and it's not even a contention, it's just that it cheapens his title. If he
man,
wins
a
it
title is a
cheapens
title
his
is a
title.
title, man. It's a. I
Yeah,
agree with
but
you, but I mean,
but I'm gonna look at it in
but
the same way
but
that I
Chess,
look at
your lens on this is to look at putting him on the Mount Rushmore of champions. That's not the idea here. No one's sitting up here and saying, Lando belongs alongside Senna, Lewis, Max, et
yeah,
cetera. Well, no one's saying that.
but it would then do a disservice to Max.
But
That's my
but
concern
well,
here,
what are
right?
McLaren
I think
supposed to
Max.
do? They're just supposed to sit back and
No,
then
no,
let
no.
this
Yeah,
happen. So,
yeah. So yeah, absolutely. McLaren, do the thing, give him priority, make Oscar give back places. Don't let Oscar race him. Make sure that Oscar slows
It's
down a
not
little bit
about
in
don't let
qualifying
him
too,
race,
whatever.
but don't let it.
It
I mean,
is. That's exactly what this
there's a
is.
difference
Don't let them
between
race.
racing and not. I mean, but look, they
No,
ultimately
man,
got what
because
they
if they
deserved,
race,
right?
Oscar, the problem is if they race, Oscar comes out on top. So no, they shouldn't let them race.
Not always. It
And
wasn't the case in Budapest.
yeah, it was the case in
I mean,
Budapest.
we have come on here and said, right, that Lando was a quicker car towards the end. He could have won it back had he given up the place
But he,
sooner.
yeah,
He
yeah,
could
yeah,
have come
but he
back, but
didn't.
it's
So
not
that
like
was a mistake on his part.
sure, but
So what I'm saying
it
is,
was not
yes,
racing.
McLaren should definitely do that. But if Lando then wins the championship, he's done it in a way that Max wouldn't have done it. Max would have won that
I
title.
absolutely agree with you, but
Lando
we
is
shouldn't
being
bring Max
handed
in
that
this.
title.
But Max has nothing to do with this.
Well, you
A
have to because
championship is a championship. Is a fair
he's the
enough.
title rival.
Shez,
He is his title rival,
he
isn't
might
he?
be the weakest Formula One champion ever, but I don't think that matters much. When McLaren can sit up here and say, "Look, when was the last time they had a McLaren driver win a championship? I don't know when. I can't remember off the. You
Yeah,
will remember because
2008.
okay,
Lewis
2008.
Hamilton.
There you go. Okay, so how long has it been since then? Like 16 years
and
now,
and
right?
and Lewis properly went out and
But
won that
look what
title.
happened in 2007 too, right? Like look what happened there too. So I think if you're
Well, no
McLaren,
team orders there.
they were it's I mean I love that season by the way. I love, that's my favorite of all time.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
I get it. But if you're McLaren, you cannot look back on the season saying, ah, geez darn it, we could have won both championships. And oh, by the way, the two drivers racing is actually going to cost them the constructors because they should not underestimate Ferrari and they should certainly not underestimate Red Bull either. Like, I'm not ready to
Sure.
count them out just yet. Yes, they're on the back foot right now, and they missed a big chance to maximize. It's just amazing to me, Shez, that they've come out of the summer break going. It's like they never talked about this, right? The whole 4 weeks, they're like, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, we're going to and the elephant in the room is right there, and they did not address it. Yeah, yeah, no, no, no number one driver. Yeah, no number one drivers. We have two number
Yeah,
ones.
yeah, why was Lando not pushing for it? Anyway, I think that
Maybe
after
he
that
did
rant,
unsuccessfully though. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that says a lot too. Right. I think that's where we're gonna have to call it.
Yeah, we should. We
Yeah,
should.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, oof, a lot to unpack. We're still gonna have to talk a little bit about Red Bull, and we're gonna have
Yeah.
to talk about Lando in a bit more detail. We will do that in upcoming episodes. So stay tuned. Tired GP. That's us. Tired GP. Please, as usual, like, please subscribe. Please leave us a comment. We will read all of them. We will respond to as many as we possibly can. We will see you guys in the next one.
Later.